We have Bold starts tomorrow. If you have not taken this opportunity to enroll, please, honestly, last week I had 3 people jump in and they're going to jump into Bold. If you haven't thought of this, I do think that this is going to be an incredible year for Bold. Jordan, what else do we have going on? I mean, we have a lot. Coming to the city, that is Monday. So if you guys haven't heard of this, please, please, please show up. We're going to have mayors from the 4 cities that are around us: Roseville, Shoreview, Arden Hills, and New Brighton. We're having the mayors come in here. They're going to be on a panel. We're going to be talking about what it is that's happening for economic development in these cities, where they see these cities going, what initiatives are important to them. This is going to be an opportunity for you guys to get perspective for it's the 12th. October 12th. Yep, it's Monday. I'm sorry, I've lied. That's all lies. It's the 16th.
What?
On the 16th. 8:30 to 10, correct. It's an easy, quick ask. Anybody that you know that you want to have in here, have them to the market center. We're this is a great opportunity, you guys, for us to be able to do this. So jump in and participate. Honestly, bring somebody to the event. Loan officers, title company, CPAs, anybody who wants to know what's happening in these 4 cities, have them come to this event. We're going to be hosting breakfast that morning. It's a great thing. What else do we have? We have the chili cook-off next week. Next
Chili
Wednesday, chili cook-off.
Here, chili cook-off with us.
I'm doing chili cook-off.
Come on. Who
Come on,
makes
guys.
chili? Oh, Jeannie's making a chili. Who else is making one?
I got George making a chili.
Isaac's making a chili
Wait.
too.
Isaac's making chili. There's a few other people. So
Where's Jen? Where's Jen? Oh, you guys, she just made a pumpkin
good.
pancake, and it was
Pumpkin.
incredible.
Banana, almond flour.
Was banana, pumpkin, almond flour, afternoon flour. It's
So good. And I ate them, and they were cold. We didn't even heat them up.
Oh.
Good. So
And I
you
didn't-
know that's good.
incredible.
I didn't even put
Oh.
any syrup on them.
There's no sugar in it. Or
Jeez, I feel healthy. So, anyways, you guys, Jen is going to make some chili as well.
you want to talk about? You do?
Not too late. Sounds like in and out. That's about what we want to talk about. All fest.
All fast.
Okay.
Beer, pumpkins.
Yeah. Beer, yeah.
Not too late to get involved. Say the oh, but,
20 dates. I look at Sean for that one.
but make sure
Reach out to Sean.
to get your get your people so you can get your RSVPs. He has it all made for you. You do nothing other than give them a call, confirm they're coming. Like, this is such a great way to do it. We've got quite a good group of participants. Also, anybody that has Halloween decorations,
You want to donate?
I need them here in the market center. Bring them. We do a here. He's our newest guest, and then we have a blow up. It's a ghost.
What's that guy's name?
This here.
Yeah.
I would like to call him Freddie.
Freddy the Scarecrow. I don't know. I'm not sold on it yet. Dan the Scarecrow.
Okay, so we're taking names for the scarecrow. We'll vote on. Not gonna flow though.
I need something scarier than that.
Stay on the stay on the scarecrow.
Mm,
Names we need a lot of help.
see this thing. It is creepy.
No, it's cute.
It is creepy.
We can start with, so we were going to start with
Our agent, Hindsight Wisdom, is running a few minutes late, so we're gonna
Raina.
so we'll just kind of pop to that person. Oh, this one looks
Raina,
better.
There you go.
So Raina is going to be online with us today.
Good morning. Can you hear me?
We
we
can hear
can.
you.
Fantastic. Raina had an allergic reaction to some medication, so it looks like I got stung by about 10 bees in the face. So there's
I got
no
to see
way
it.
I
It
was
does.
joining you for breakfast today.
Listen, I think
Trust-
the fact that you don't have that we can't see your face right now is
I already saw it.
you did.
She
Oh,
sent me a picture. I
so
won't
for
show
those
you.
of you that want to see that, you can see
No.
Carrie later.
No, for Carrie's eyes only. Oh my gosh.
You know,
Okay,
I'm gonna
well,
come to your house. I get to be at the blacksmith tonight, so I'm just gonna stop at
yeah,
your house. Take a look
okay,
at you.
well.
All
Well, I
right,
hope
go ahead. I'm
everybody,
so sorry.
it's okay. I hope everybody's having a wonderful morning. So there's a couple things that are happening in mortgage that I feel like people should know about right now, just for as we kind of continue on talking to our clients and talking about education and what does that mean when you're just, trying to drum up some conversations. Well, first and foremost, there's a couple things that are happening. So every year, and I think this is beneficial for you to know as kind of purchase prices, especially in new construction, are changing, but the new conventional loan limit is going up to 750,000. And that will probably be followed by some sort of FHA raise as well. But this is important to know because now, people, when they're looking at putting some money down, they can talk about, well, can I buy almost $1 million house with 20% down and not be held to different underwriting standards, let's just say jumbo versus a regular conventional mortgage. For those of you that have clients in the higher price point, it's just something to kind of keep in the back of your mind, when they're kind of talking about the different loans. I'm finding that a lot of my clients are talking to their agents about their finances a lot lately. And it's almost like they want to feel a little bit more safe and secure in what they're doing. So just keep that in the back of your mind. And then I think do we have one more slide, Jordan? Yes. Okay. So I heard a stat from some sort of real estate convention that was happening last year that 26% of the home sales last year came from investors. And I do still need to figure out if that is actually true, but when I heard that, I felt like that was kind of a staggering number. Did anybody else hear that? Okay, so what happens now is that previously, when you were purchasing a duplex, you needed to be under a certain income limit to be able to put 5% down. Otherwise, you had to use FHA. Now, Fannie Mae is allowing you to put 5% down with no income limits. That's the way it used to be about 3 years ago. That's a really nice change. And so for those of you that have clients that are thinking about house hacking or really just getting into a duplex to where they can live there for a year and kind of keep doing the same thing, this financing change is a nice change for those that want to buy multifamily. But on the flip side, has anybody ever had clients that on a departure residence, they get a lease? And we use that income to offset their current house payment so they can afford their new house payment. If that sounds familiar to you, please know that there are changes that are coming to that. We used to be able to just qualify clients with just a lease. So if you knew you were going to have a renter, all we had to do is have them sign a lease. Now we need a lease plus 2 months of rent receipt. So the first month of rent and a security deposit, or we need to have a rental schedule done on their departure residence to make sure that they are renting it out for fair market value. Does that make sense? If you have any questions on that, let me know, because I actually see a lot of people going into their move-up houses and wanting to keep their departure residences as investment properties. And we need to offset that payment usually. So that's a little bit of a change and something we need to be aware of, that we can't just have one signed lease. So if you hear of your clients just kind of talking about that, use that as kind of a, red flag in the back of your mind to be sure that they check in with their lender.
Rena, I have kind of an odd question on that. So if you have to have that 2 months, kind of that rental track on that, does it need to be a 2 months past history it's happened, or can you get this new leaser to sign to pay 2 months ahead?
You can get them to pay their first month rent and their security deposit.
Okay.
That would count.
Perfect. Thank you.
Mhm. Yes. Sounds great, you guys. Well, have a good day. Enjoy.
Appreciate you and I hope you
Thanks,
feel
Raina.
better.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Now we're ready to do hindsight wisdom.
Oh,
with-
Karen's right there.
Karen Collins. But here, she's here now.
Karen,
He didn't see you sneak in.
calm down. You want to hand her a microphone, homie?
Works. You want us to have a stool? Obviously,
Those of us that have seen the wisdom with our
we just have
one of our experienced agents
a little bit about herself.
as well.
As, what is one thing she wished she would have known sooner? And maybe something she would have done differently.
Have you known that or something else? And then just talk about it.
We're also talking about the incredible technology we have here.
All right. First of all, play a little bit of something for you. We're going to go back in time. Anyone remember 2005? I had just turned 30. That old. I just turned 30 and I was working in healthcare and married for about 2 years. And it was exactly 18 years from today that I was taking weekend classes at a place called ProSource. That used to be Kaplan. So let's go a little bit back in time. Come with me. Let's go back to 2005. What were you guys doing, by the way, in 2005? What's that? College. All right. What's that? Way to make me feel old. Jordan was how old? 19. 8. Maybe this was a mistake. Oh my God. We just gotten licensed. Might have had class together, maybe.
I took it down on bandana.
Oh, I was at Bloomington or Edina, whatever one that was.
Years in the business.
We're already 10. Well, thank you. That makes me feel a little better then. Was already 10 years in. So, all right. So I have a conversation. I meet up with myself at age 30. So let's kind of go through that. Karen Collins. Yes. Oh my God. Doesn't that sound so great? I've been married like almost 2 years now. Say Mrs. Karen Collins. Yeah, no, I don't know about that. Whatever, Karen Collins. Who are you? I'm you. What? My God, you have a tattoo. How did that happen? Long story. We're going to give you a little bit of advice when you first get into real estate. Number one, you need to find this book. I know it sounds really kitschy, but it's called The Millionaire Real Estate Agent.
Yeah, it's fine.
Anyone heard of that? I had never heard of it. It had just come out a couple years before that in 2005. Unfortunately, I didn't find it until about 5 years later. If I would have found it right away, I think that would have actually made a huge difference in my career a lot sooner. It's the map of how to actually run your real estate business. The other thing I wish I would have done differently was I wish I would have focused on listings instead of buyers. Why is that? Do you think that would have been a smarter move for me?
Use your time more wisely.
Yes. I don't know why I'm warm when I'm standing up here. I'm not nervous, I promise. Yes, use your time more wisely because listings equals what? Leverage. Exactly. I would have had a lot more control, I think, of my business at that time. I also wish as a newbie that I wouldn't have thought that that was a neon sign over my head. I thought, oh, as soon as I walk into an appointment, people are going to see me and they're going to know I'm new and they're not going to want to hire me. This is all in my head. And they actually had no idea I was new. I could have completely faked it, not said a word about it. They wouldn't have known any different. So those are a couple of things. What do I do? Just open it up for questions? Any questions? Nope. Okay, good.
Things that you got that or didn't work, things you would share.
That's buyer consult. That's another thing. It's a really big deal. Do not go out. I should have told myself, do not go out and start showing houses before you actually sit down, meet with buyers ahead of time. Because I spent a lot of time showing people and then later found out that they didn't qualify. That was not an effective use of anyone's time. So having a set buyer consult and spending at least hour with them before going out and starting out that relationship. The buyer consult, by the way, is the beginning of that relationship, and how that buyer consult goes is really reflective on the rest of that relationship. And if that relationship goes well, regardless of whether we lose out on offers, whether, we have some not so great experiences, if that relationship is still good, that's the most important thing. Because I want to be able to hopefully have them as clients for life.
Some of the important questions you would ask.
I guess I would ask their motivation for sure, but make sure that they are approved with a good lender. That doesn't start with a W and end with a Fargo. Had way too many bad transactions, unfortunately, with them. Making sure that they are pre-approved before we go out. And then also, here's another good one. Another really good one. Telling them about earnest money ahead of time.
No, only must have.
Okay. I'm telling them about earnest money ahead of time, asking about down payment ahead of time. So I'm not floundering when I sit down and write an offer with them for the first time. So those are a couple mistakes. I'm trying to think of other questions. I have a booklet that I go through. If anyone's open to at some point looking at what that buyer's consult actually looks like.
I think that was the most important thing for everybody in here to know, especially online for newer agents. What Karen has said is what she means, and that's one of the biggest things different with KWI is she's got a book and she is willing to share it with you. She will show you. That's what any one part needs. So guys, if you are doing this, if you want to get in there, get in those trenches, ask another agent who's doing it, and then look at what they're asking who's in it. They'll just give it to you. I mean, I would recommend you change the name on it, but not sure they're gonna care.
You probably don't want Karen Collins on there. I mean, you could, but that might not look so good. No, I'm happy absolutely to sit down and go through a buyer's consult, give you my booklet, copy it, use it.
So Karen, how do you help direct your own schedule? I had a younger or newer agent. Well, they wanted 9 o'clock. I had to drop everything. I had to give them 9 o'clock. How do we direct that conversation?
I'm so glad you asked that. Lynn had asked about having that more control over my schedule and not just dropping everything, right? For a client when they call and say, I want to go look at a house and I want to look at it at 7 o'clock tonight. That is so good. At the very beginning of that relationship, when I'm sitting at that buyer consult, I'm teaching people how to treat me. I'm setting those standards and those expectations right off the bat. So I make it very clear. Here's when I'm available. Here's what you do when you see a property. Let me know. I need at least a 24-hour notice. Here's the times that I'm available to show it. There might be times when we can't show it because the seller's not available. And I set all of that up ahead of time. I'm glad you asked me that because I spent a lot of time dropping everything and missing out on a lot of important things in life that I didn't necessarily have to miss out on simply because I felt like I owed everything, all of my time, dropping everything, clients, and that didn't have to be that way. You can still make them feel like you're there for them without sacrificing your own life. question.
Karen, how do you do when, because you have been enough in the business? When you think this is not working, I need to make some changes, what is your mindset to say, okay, I need to start over without feeling like,
Yep. So question is like, if I need to make changes in the business and identify that, and how do I move forward with making those changes without thinking to myself, oh my gosh, I totally failed at that. It was actually a really big aha. I think it might have been when I was either at Mega Camp or Family Reunion, and the big GK himself had said that you have to constantly be reanalyzing your business. That's the norm. And then learn how to make quick adjustments. And it's not a failure. It's just, it changes. It changes all the time. It's not a failure. What you were doing at the time was what was right at that time. But as the market changes, as conditions change, as your business changes, expect it. Just know it's time to readjust and expect to do that sometimes multiple times a year. And that's okay. That help? It's not a failure. And even if you do quote fail, that's okay. Oh my gosh, my failures. I failed a lot. Some big ones too, unfortunately, but I wouldn't be who I am today if it wasn't for that. And at least I'm smart enough to not repeat those mistakes again. That's the big thing, but you have to learn, you have to fail.
Yeah.
Isaac.
Aside from the MREA, what other book would you recommend that you've read that has helped your business and you wish you would have read sooner?
That's a really good question too. Besides the MREA, what are some books that I've read? Fierce Conversations, huge. That's like one of the real estate Bibles for me. Fierce Conversations talks about how to have those real conversations and to do that in a very velvet hammer way without hurting people, making those conversations effective, making that relationship healthy. So that was a big one. Endless Referrals is another big one. It teaches you how to network properly. And the basis of that book is, someone once told me, and I remember this was like the pinnacle moment of when I decided to move to Keller Williams was during this time of year, something about October, by the way. This time of year, I went to the business planning clinic, and the person that was running it at the time was Rick Jiha. Look into him, by the way, he's amazing. And one of the things he had said that stuck with me forever is you need to start being interested versus interesting, which was huge, but simple. And Endless Conversation or Endless Referrals talks about being interested. Because think about when you're out there networking with people and you get someone that all they want to do is talk about themselves and they don't let you get a word in. Is that really someone you want to hang out with? You want to be around someone that's just as interested in you and growing your business as you are with them. And so when you go out and network with people, asking a lot of questions, asking them, how can I help you with your business? Taking all that interest is very attractive. People will want to be around you, and it's a great way to network. So the Endless Referrals was one of those big ones.
Here, I had to put Isaac's questions in a big report, 7 level communication.
7 levels of communication. Absolutely.
Right up.
Yes.
I am right that the MREA book is the best selling real estate related book ever. And I think 7 levels of every second. It's
Yeah.
for good reason. It's a fabulous book.
It is. I haven't read that one in years and probably should revamp that one again.
Should.
Great audio. Oh yeah, absolutely. Shift. Oh my gosh, Shift. And again, this I bleed red, obviously KW, but Shift is a really good one, especially for now. There's stuff in there that I've just highlighted over and over and over again. It's just incredible, some of the stuff that's in that book. So
Thank you. glad I read at least one of the books.
I should keep a list because I have so many of them and then I forget. Then I think to myself, there's one I got to suggest and I can never remember the title of it. So.
Can't get past page for chapter 4, because then I'm just compelled. I don't know.
No, I get so excited. I wound up with those books. I can't read them at night and I can't go to sleep because then all of a sudden I'll be like, oh my gosh, I got to do this and this and this and this and this. I have to try and read them like in the morning or, or early afternoon. Otherwise I get way too wound up. Anything else? Thank you.
Two things. First, endless referrals is there's a couple of copies on the bookshelf out there. If you haven't done that, Raving Fans is a good one. If you've never read Raving Fans before and you're looking for an opportunity in a market like this, create Raving Fans. It's an engagement strategy, but truth be told, I think 7 levels, it's just right up there. 7 levels, the one thing. So what I want to say about Karen, as she goes to sit back down first is, what I find incredible about Karen is as a leader, she is insightful, but also that your willingness to be vulnerable and share your experiences as you're part of them. I think that's an incredible leadership strength of yours, is to say, hey, I'm struggling with this. And you're articulate in that, so you have an opportunity to solve that because you're not stuck in lie. We all have a tendency to tell ourselves a story that sometimes isn't true, and to ask yourself how you can get out of that story, and sharing that with each other is important. How many of you wake up on a daily basis, weekly basis, a monthly basis, or a few times a year and just think, I'm not good enough. I don't know what I'm doing here. I think all of us feel that way at some point in our career and at some point in the week or the month or the year. And the thing I really like that Karen did and has brought to this is the humility of saying, hey, we all get here. How do we get ourselves out of it? So Karen, thank you so much for always your willingness to lead through your sharing and being vulnerable. All right, next up. Next up, broker business. Come on up. Lynn,
Come up.
you can sit. Like it.
Chair.
I like it. I like it.
Balancing on. All right, first, guys, they've asked me this every week. I'm gonna run out of topics, so if you have something that you would like to get into, discuss, learn, would you please let Carrie or Jordan or Nick or myself know? We want to make this about you and what we can do to help you. Okay? I'm just gonna pick on a topic that no one likes. And that's when someone makes a complaint or you want to make a complaint, how does that work and where does it go and what happens? I was on vacation and I took some really, really hard phone calls. Some of those phone calls were from buyers that bought almost 2 years ago. They bought in a time where we were doing no inspections. They were buying as is. And they got into some really big messes. When they call and they talk to you as the agent, remember you're not representing them post-closing, but you can be helpful, friendly, and nice. You don't want to be the jerk that says, hey, you bought as is, too bad, so sad, because I'm going to get the next call. I had to sit down and literally explain to more than one party what arbitration was. When you sign or don't sign an arbitration disclosure, it can start a timeline and how the dollar amounts are involved. So let's say you have a $45,000 storm damage roof or a house that maybe had a house fire that wasn't disclosed. Those are big dollar amounts. If all parties signed arbitration, it's going to go to arbitration and you have a 2-year time frame. What happens if you're past that 2 years? Too bad. If it's under 15,000, whether everyone signed or not, it's small claims court. If you did not sign arbitration, anyone in the transaction, agent, buyer, seller, other agent, if someone did not sign that arbitration, and if it's over 15,000, it's district court. I felt like creep on the phone trying to tell someone that he just wanted our E&O insurance information so he could file a claim. It's like he'd file a homeowner's claim. I had to explain to him it doesn't work like that. You have to sue us, or you have to go to arbitration against us and we have to lose. That's the only way you're going to access those funds. They're there to protect the brokerage and the agent. By the way, we have a really good damn attorney. I think the guy almost started crying because he'd already paid his attorney more than he could afford in legal expenses. And I felt bad. I mean, he really is in a bind. When people call you with those questions, take the time to explain their options, even if their options are ugly. If you really don't understand those options, you and I need to talk. Because you're representing these people in the biggest purchase of their home, the biggest purchase of their life, probably. And they don't do it on a regular basis. Some of you do it on a regular basis and don't understand it. Had one agent selling his own house and the deal blew up. He needed a broker, or an agent. So guess who he called? It gives us some empathy though going forward to understand that, hey, I've been through this personally, and yeah, it kind of stinks sometimes. It's a roller coaster. My job here is to make it as drama free, take that stress away from you, but sometimes we just have it. It's part of the deal. So when someone calls and they find out they really have no options, I also have to tell them that if they feel their agent did not represent them, they can file an ethics complaint. That also has a 2-year time frame. And we've had more of them this year than we'd had in the whole 10 years that I've been here. Before I left on vacation, I had a really nice conversation with Todd. And he told me that somehow I have to tell you people, and I'm just going to use his words, that when he got into this business, he was told the best way to avoid a complaint is to act like Prince Charming. Treat people really above and beyond nice. It's not their first instinct to go through the BS and the paperwork and the time to make a complaint. They need to be heard. You need to be interested in what they're saying. A lot of times I take a phone call and I'm just simply let them vent. And when they're all done, they're like, I just needed to tell someone. And that's sometimes all it takes. Don't be the first one to say, hey, you signed a contract and you're going to go to court and I'm going to get this money. No, slow it down. Listen to them. Maybe even say, hey, you know what? Maybe we need to finish this conversation tomorrow when everyone's had a moment to cool off. There's nothing wrong with that. But if someone does make a complaint, it goes to what's called the grievance committee. The grievance committee reviews the complaint at face value. They do not look at, does this sound real? Does this not? They have proof? Do they not? They look at it at face value. Serve on these committees. Sometimes you hear the story and it's like, there's no way in heck that happened. But you have to look at it at face value. If it looked like it might have happened, if everything they're saying is true, it moves on to a hearing. A hearing is not the biggest, scariest thing. It is when you're part of it. But a hearing really is your chance then to tell your side of the story. So as you're doing files, and I know you all love me so much for that, if you have multiple offers, make sure all the offers are in the file. Make a folder on the left-hand side, dump them in. I don't review them, but last week on vacation, I had someone call and they wanted proof that there was multiple offers. They did not believe our agent. Okay. They overpaid for the property. I understand why they were upset, but there were multiple offers. Went to look in the file and I could not tell them that there were multiple offers because they were not uploaded. So I had to call the agent and make sure that, hey, get those in there. Sometimes I see the MLS notes, you know, hey, multiple offers received, and I'll ask you to put them in. A lot of times I don't. Because I don't see it. I'm not part of the transaction. Make sure you've got a net sheet for every single one of those offers. Even if one's 30,000 low, do a net sheet because your seller deserves that. That's your fiduciary duty. Okay. Every offer gets a net sheet. Every offer gets presented. Every offer gets turned into the office, not necessarily for review, but so it's there. Okay, so during a hearing, it's very much, if anyone was ever on student council, it's very much the panel sits up here and you tell your side, you cross-examine, the panel can ask questions. Sometimes it gets kind of emotional and raw. Sometimes I was in one where the other broker sat there and, you know, I just really wanted clarification and this seemed to be the only way to get it. And our agent was fine. There was nothing done. When I sit on a panel, one of the things that can happen is we're told it should be a speed bump. It should not be a derailment. So a speed bump is like $500 fine and 6 hours of continuing education, and there's a letter in your file. The letter stays there for 3 years, I believe. I've only been on one panel where it was an obnoxious amount that probably would have derailed most of your careers, but the person did something really obnoxious. And they harmed a member of the public. And so just be careful. You know, if you're in a transaction where people are being kind of cranky, or we all get those little plagues that go up our neck, make sure you keep those text messages. Make sure you keep those emails. If things are, I tend to do a lot of things with phone call. I'm not a very good text messenger. I'm pretty bad at it, actually. I will have a phone call, and if I think it's something that's kind of going sideways, I follow up with an email and say, hey, I just want to recap our conversation, make sure I heard what you were saying. Reaffirm that it's to make sure you're representing them. Then you got a paper trail of that phone call. When you're in a hearing, you do present all of that. You present your text messages, your emails, your recollection, and then you hope that it goes. Oops. About a week later, you get the results. You kind of walk out thinking that you know how it went. But the last hearing I was the panel on, I guarantee we surprised that broker. It's interesting. I actually had to ask the broker if they ever reviewed their agent's files. Yeah.
When comment.
Yeah.
With the arbitration, I have noticed that some brokers are now directing their agents not to sign.
It represents our office typically actually likes us to decline arbitration because he can bury someone in paperwork. Most of the consumers out there don't have an attorney that can have unlimited funds to represent them. Personally, I tend to do whatever my client does. I let them be the direction on it. That's just my style. It's not something at this moment we're micromanaging for you. Arbitration is no appeal system. So when you lose, it has to be paid and there's no arbitration system, or there's no appeal. Whatever that arbitrator decides is it. We've got an arbitration hearing coming up in a month, 6 weeks. They're asking for the whole price of the house. They want to be made right. They want to literally have the sale reversed. And if the arbitrator sits there and says, yeah, that sounds reasonable, then that's what's going to happen. I'm really glad that I don't think we have a lot of risk on that one. I think it's the other brokerage that has the majority of the risk. But arbitration can go for any amount. It doesn't cover pain and suffering. The gentleman I talked to with the roof, he wanted me to know how much pain and suffering he had, that he's going to have to work 2 jobs in order to get this done. It doesn't cover that. I really felt awful on that conversation. And yet I had to represent the brokerage and be kind of tough. But I got off the phone and I'm like, oh, babe, I need a drink. This was not good. All right. I think I probably exceeded our time,
Appreciate that.
but please, if you've got topics that you want to have discussed, I tend to see the gloom and doom side of things, but there's really good things. Karen, I loved your answer on how to manage your time. I kind of do it by saying, hey, does Saturday at 10 o'clock work for you, or is Sunday at 2 better? And usually they pick one of them. Give them a couple options, but direct it. Having a root canal done today, I did not want to show houses tonight. And I just casually, Tuesday's not a great day, but Wednesday I'm wide open. Learn how to direct that, because that gets to be stressful when you're first starting out and you're hungry and you want a closing. All right, thank you.
Thank you so much, Lynn. We always appreciate what you do. Thank you. All right, guys. So now we are going to jump in to our special guest. Dash, you want to come on up, my man? Is that?
Well, this is the working mic.
That's, well, it's working now. I can't guarantee forever.
I think it's a battery. I was in a band for too long.
What was the band? What kind of band were you
I
in?
stood in the back and I played bass because I didn't want to sing or interact with anyone.
What kind was this? It's a ska. You look like a
Yes,
punk.
yes.
punk
So when
band.
I was living the dream, living out of a van and traveling around the country with people I hated, the dream. It was like rock and roll. It was Chili Peppers, Foo Fighters.
There you go.
Then I cut my hair and decided to try to be an adult.
We all
Still-
grow up.
still
right?
trying.
We all
Still
grow
trying.
up.
Thank you so much for having me. I don't have fancy slides. I don't have fancy business cards. I wanted to just share a couple super easy, super digestible points about home insurance that affect your closings. And if it affects your closings and your transactions, it affects your commissions. I run into a couple things all the time. My realtors who get me on the phone when the sewer inspection comes out, or they get me on the phone when the PA comes through and the seller's disclosure comes through and there's no knowledge of the roof, for example. I walk them through what it looks like for insurance implications, because if you can't have insurance, you can't have a loan in most cases. And if you can't have a loan, you don't have a transaction. So super digestible. One of my main goals, I'm going to lead off with rough age. I want to just write down rough age of your properties that you show. One of my main goals is we have all the vital stats of our houses. We have this price, square footage, bed, baths. What am I missing? Those are the one, like that's the calling card of every house. I want the next one. I want to grow a movement that knows the roof age of every home. The reason it's so important, especially in this really, really hard market that we're currently in, is because it determines not just whether you can get home insurance at all, it determines what you pay, what your client pays, and whether or not you can get a replacement cost on the roofing. Replacement cost means it's not depreciated. Yeah. So if you have a $20,000 roof that costs from your contractor, but you have actual cash value or depreciated roofing, you might only get a $5,000 check minus your deductible when you need 20 for the contractor. It's a bad experience, which I'm sure you run into multiple times in arbitration. So roof age right now in the market, if you have a roof that's over 10 years old, your client is going to have troubles getting replacement cost coverage on the roof. If it's over 20, your client may have difficulties getting home insurance at all in the primary market. The difference between a 2010 roof, for example, and a brand new roof of 2020 or 2023 is thousands of dollars a year. When you're looking at thousands of dollars a year, you're talking hundreds of dollars per month in debt to income ratio calculations, which is important for your client on the loan side. So roof age is a huge, huge deal. Know the roof. And when you put roof age in the MLS listing, I want to send you a bouquet of flowers because I use MLS data to do a lot of my quotes. And if I don't have to go look at the permit department, if I don't have to call city clerks, I want to send you a Caribou gift card. So keep that in mind. We don't always know, but if you know, it's important. Secondary thing that I want you to keep in mind, general exterior maintenance. Have you ever closed a loan with FHA? It's a huge pain in the ass. It's peeling paint, peeling shingles. Please paint this railing or we won't let you close your loan. And you're like, if you have that FHA type ickiness in mind when you're showing your houses with your clients, you can say, hey, just so you know, John and Jane Smith, you're going to have to do a little bit of cleanup on the shingles, a little bit of cleanup on the paint. Sometimes it's as easy as a paintbrush and a hand. Sometimes it's getting roof repair. Knowing those things are going to come up because the insurance company, separate from your inspection that's pre-close, if you have an inspection, insurance company is always going to send someone out or a drone out these days to look at the exterior of the property. If you have bad railings, if you have peeling paint, if you have chipping concrete, if you have tripping hazard, all of this stuff will come up for your client after closing. They're going to get a letter. If their insurance agent is on their game, they'll hear it from them as well. They'll get a letter saying, hey, we're going to need you to fix XYZ, trim this tree, paint this paint the next 30 days, or we're going to cancel your home insurance. It's a big deal. So general exterior maintenance, keep those in mind. A huge one I hear with all my realtors is how many sewer inspections and sewer scopes do you get ordered by your clients? Super common, right? Can insure the line itself that's buried in the ground. Almost all carriers now offer an endorsement called service line or utility line coverage. It's not included by default. It's an add-on. You gotta add the a la carte option and click the button. Every carrier kind of approaches it differently. But generally speaking, you can get around $10,000 in coverage for these buried utility lines. It costs like $50 a year. If you've been through a sewer line replacement, you know that they get 8, 10, 15, 20K really fast. Costs a lot. You can't always insure the entire loss, but you'd much rather tell your client that you got 10K in coverage as opposed to 0. That comes up a lot. If you have any questions on that, you can always let me know. You have to add the coverage before you know about the damage. It's kind of everything in insurance. You can't insure a house that's on fire. You can't insure a service line that already has roots and things in it. So service line is another one. And the final bonus one, this comes up a ton with Minneapolis and St. Paul properties as well, because they're all 100+ years old. Knob and tube wiring. You see it in your inspection report. If you have knob and tube wiring, a lot of it's partial these days because it's been partially ripped out. You put a breaker box in, upgraded the amperage service. Almost all carriers are ineligible for home insurance if you have full knob and tube wiring or you have total electrical service under 100 amps. Generally speaking, if you've put in a breaker box, you're at a minimum 100 amps and you're going to be fine. I get it a lot. Well, you'll have partial knob and tube up in like a half story still. That can be tricky. Again, you're going to have an agent who knows the carrier regulations because each carrier is different in how they treat knob and tube. So if you, it's a 1940s and earlier electrical setup. So it can be really, really problematic on that too. So those are 4 super easily digestible tips. Keep them in mind. If you can share that with your client at your walkthrough, and even way pre-walkthrough, at their first seeing of the property, if you can say, hey, Mr. and Mrs. Smith, I see that you have 2 layers of shingles on your roof, or your roof is really old. Just so you know, this is going to be really tricky with home insurance. If it's tricky with home insurance, it's tricky for our transaction. Again, I'm not the realtor. I'm not the one negotiating work or repairs on the home before an offer is put in. But if you can get your buyer a new electrical system, or new roof, or even proceeds towards that, a huge deal. It's a huge deal for their overall transaction enjoyment. So, overall, the market right now is super brutal. I was just laughing with Britt. Like I'm 10 years in, and this is my first time seeing a market that's like, what the hell is going on? I have lenders who are like, screw you. I was here in 2008. Like, fair. But like right now, premiums are skyrocketing because all of our loss ratios are horrible in insurance. They were super underpriced for 5 to 10 years. All the regulators were giving them 8% increases when they were asking for 40. That's why we're seeing all of this turmoil. We're seeing giant companies leave giant economies like California. It's happening at a smaller scale in Minnesota. Carriers are limiting monoline homes, for example, where you have to have the auto as well, but then you can't write the auto because of driving record, therefore you can't write the home. So we're seeing rates go up and the carrier is shrinking. So it's harder than ever to get home insurance, and it's super tricky. Roof age is a big part of that. Just know when you have clients saying, gosh, my home insurance went up 45%, be like, fortunately, we're seeing a ton of that. It's just it's a reckoning, and it's a resetting of the market because the loss ratios are so bad. So the market's kind of recovering too. So keep that in mind. I'm happy to do general Q&A. I don't need to take any more of your time unless you have specific pertinent questions.
I have a question. Some of these cities that we sell in have inflow and filtration where you gotta have the sewer line inspected. What is the timeline? So let's say I go out on a listing appointment and hey, you know what, we want to sell in the spring. Should I be suggesting, why don't you add this to your policy if you've never had a problem because it's going to come up?
Bingo.
Would it be covered? Or
So-
is there a time frame that they have to have that before it would apply?
Nope. So there's no waiting period if that's your question. So if you have an done and you have a clean line, get right away. It's fit.
Put it on, all knowing you're gonna have it done.
You're gonna have the inspection done. And if I don't know about it, I'm not misrepresenting it. It sounds a little tricky, but as long as so if people call me, they say, hey, I have glass coverage. I have a chip in my windshield. You have glass coverage, but you're gonna have to have glass coverage before you discover the chip in your windshield. If you can add the coverage with most carriers, and they say, yeah, we can do that for you. They don't make you inspect the line before you add the coverage, to answer your question. So if you have reason to believe a clean line or one infection's coming up, you should absolutely add the coverage before you know there's a problem. Because a vast majority of carriers will have that. You weren't sure to stay the line before you added the coverage. It's huge, super huge. And that's very, very common too. We have it all the time. You have sewer inspections come up. The endorsement does cover roots going into it. It covers collapse. It covers all the costs to dig up the line. It's really expensive, really fast, and it's not always fully covered. But if it's even covered for 10 grand, it's better than zero. So, no questions. That was a great question. Anybody else? Well, thank you so much for having me. Thank you for your time. Instagram, Your Insurance IQ. If you want to just look me up, I do all these videos just for fun, for free. So if you want to jot down my cell is 952-465-7187. I will literally take your call or your text anytime. If I can answer, I always will. It's hey, what does this mean for insurance? Hey, is this a problem? Hey, what should we do about this? Hey, how does this do this? My company has this and blah, 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 blah. Free consults until we're blue in the face. I'm always happy to help and give you a little bit of insight on it. So look me up, follow me, and I appreciate the time. Thank you. 952-465-7187.
What was that IG, my man?
It's Your Insurance IQ. Instagram. It should come up with an IG Instagram search.
There we go.
Great question. So I started my career with Farmers Insurance, as we all know, though we are farmers, guys. I'm actually in the process of selling my book, and I'm going to the broker side. So starting January 1, I will be representing all the big independents like Travelers, Safeco, Nationwide, those guys, even though none of them are writing business right now. And I'm selling my farmers book. So I'm in transition, but if I have a client now, it'll be on the farmer side. If I have a client in 3 months, it'll be on the other side. But ultimately, I'm here to consult, here to help, and quote rates if you need them. So.
Morning, I'm on the broker side, you are. Telling the story about how I literally was about to cancel it. Everything happened, they cancel it. They are phenomenal because the person I worked with being like a dad, found me the right company that was good for what my family has and what we need. Compared to when I have a regular carrier, I would have gotten that kind of coverage. So somebody with a broker is great, really love to.
And similarly to the real estate and mortgage markets, a lot of the big old dinosaurs, the giant companies like the State Farms, they're having a real reckoning with staffing. They're trying to find a way to be more direct and compete with the Progressives and the Geckos, still have human beings to give you the consult that you want and not have to shop online. And please don't buy your insurance from a website. That's my other main tip. Because it can be just, right, right. I don't know if you have AI infiltrating your business yet, but don't buy a house from a robot either. So that's my final tip. Thank you, everyone.
Dash, thank you so much. And he was in a band, right? All right, guys, thank you so much for being here. This is your weekly team meeting. Go out, change some lives, and kick some ass today. Make it happen.
Second.